another guest, and we're really, really excited because Sheilagh Harrington actually reached out to us, which is really exciting when we do this show, and then people contact us, and I don't know if it was from this show or if it was from just our social media or from just being on Facebook, and send us a message about the services they're offering over at Sunrise-Amanecer. And so we are so excited to have Sheilagh Harrington with us today.
There.
Hi, Sheilagh.
How are you?
I have to say I'm actually incredibly honored to be in such great company today with Emily and with Ivy. I actually pre-COVID had a Reiki session with Emily, so I have met her before, but it has been wonderful listening to both of them share their experiences here. So it has been really, I'm quite honored to be here.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
So like you also play reggae music? That's
No, Reiki.
Oh, Reiki. I thought she said reggae.
Reiki is a good call.
I know what Reiki is.
Reiki.
But if I said I play reggae music, I played reggae music, and I was like, so you also do that? Cool. You can come back on and do that for us next time, Sheilagh.
No. Emily's probably like, I don't know any reggae.
I don't do reggae. What are you
But
talking
maybe,
about?
always adding to the.
Yeah, maybe I could learn. I don't
I
know.
think there's amazing reggae classes that could
I'm
certainly
just
be.
teasing and embracing the awkward right
I
now.
love it too. So,
So
can you share a little bit about what Sunrise-Amanecer, like the services that you provide at Sunrise-Amanecer?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sunrise-Amanecer is what our founder calls her baby nonprofit. So it is a new nonprofit mental health agency in Greensboro. It's been around for about a year. I just came on in the last month. Is Latinx run, female run agency, and we have a mission that is very LGBTQIA plus affirming, a very open affirming space. And I myself am billed as a kink positive therapist. So what that means is that when you come in, we try to create this space where it's very open, that anyone can be their authentic selves and talk about whatever it is that they have to talk about. And we have lots of things going on at Sunrise-Amanecer. We're working on several different projects. We've got a host of interns working with us now from both UNCG and North Carolina A&T, helping us out and pitching in with us. So it's just such a wonderful place where we're very open and affirming. So one of the things that I did want to touch on is that when folks do come in for therapy here, even though, you know, we're trans positive and LGBTQ positive, sometimes that's not what people are coming in to talk about. So maybe they're dealing with depression or anxiety, especially right now in, you know, with COVID-19, that we have a lot of people who are experiencing anxiety, they're experiencing depression. And it is Suicide Awareness Week and month. And they may be just wanting to talk to somebody, and maybe their status as a member of the LGBTQ community or a member of the trans community is just part of who they are. And that's not why they're seeking therapy. But in the conversation with a therapist, when that comes up, the therapist is just, you know, automatically ready to have that conversation. So all of our therapists here are, it's an automatic opening for people to say, I feel comfortable here, you can talk about that here. We want to treat people in a holistic manner so that whatever it is that they need to talk about or whatever they're here to discuss in their mental health life can be talked about and doesn't have to be tiptoed around, that they already know when they click on that button and they look us up on the internet, hey, here we are, we're here, we're affirming, and you're welcome to talk about whatever it is you need to talk about in session.
That sounds like the definition of, I guess you could say, a safe place, like a safe zone where, like you said, it might not be what they're coming in for, but they don't have to be afraid to share their whole authentic self. It's not something that has to be hidden, which I think is something that people fear.
Well, and explained, and so I appreciate, for example, in sharing that, it's sort of like you mentioned that you were a kink-friendly therapist, for example. For individuals who are engaged and that's part of their lifestyle, finding a therapist that you may want to talk about a variety of issues, but then when something sort of intersects or touches on a point there, having to go through and more, having to re-explain it, or have a therapist who might be like, whoa, what do you mean about these particular behaviors? Like that can also sort of disrupt any of the success that you've had in that process. And the same for people engaged, who may live with their experience, living with HIV, people who may have queer experiences. Like you said, they may be there for dealing with the loss of a spouse, the loss of a loved one, life changes, whatever the case may be. But having an affirming space where you don't have to explain something that you might at that point just not want to explain. You might not need to.
Right. And that kind of leads to a good question. When it comes to mental health, what are some of the unique barriers that individuals in these more marginalized communities might be facing? You mentioned that this is a focus on, you've got a Latinx community that you're dealing with. We know that our folks who are living with HIV are members of that marginalized community, trans community, LGBTQ+. What are some unique barriers that these folks are dealing with when it comes to mental health?
Well, a lot of times when I look at intersectionality, I really try to focus on the fact that intersectionality, if you look at it mathematically, it's not multiplication, it's exponential. So, 5 times 5 is 25, but 5 to the 5th power is 125. And I think that Ivy really hit on it when she was talking about, she's Black, she's female, she's gay, and that isn't just 3 strikes, but then that it's exponential, how society kind of views somebody with all 3 of those categories. And I think that's the same thing when somebody comes in and they've got several marginalized categories, it kind of multiplies. And then there's so many different things kind of beating down on them sometimes. And if they're in this category or in this category, and helping people kind of look through those categories and how does each category affect me is part of the therapeutic process. But there's also the part that a lot of these categories have a lot of strengths that can be really utilized to really have that resilience part. So, if you're a member of the LGBTQ community, what strengths does that bring to you? And how does that really, can we really take a better look at that and see where that's positive and see where you can actually enhance that and use that as a resilience piece?
I love that. It was interesting. I had someone say to me, within this pandemic experience, when everything was kind of going on in the beginning and we were trying to figure out how we were going to adjust our services, and another organization I'm on the board for, we were kind of trying to figure all of that out. Someone who was receiving services said, I don't know what everyone's freaking out, about, acting like the world's on fire. The world has always been on fire for me, and it's like,
yeah.
It's so true that when you're a member of one of these communities and maybe you have all of those boxes ticked against you, your resilience factor does just kind of go up and up and up. Not that means that you don't need services and you don't need, to be given or, offered aid, and we don't want to offer services and help for traumas and things like that. But that is such a strength. That resilience is such a strength, and that strength-based approach is such an amazing thing that you bring up, Sheilagh. That's so important.
Well, those identities also have so many strengths, and I love that you brought that up, Sheilagh. That idea that, for example, if I'm bringing my Latin heritage, for example, into conversation, if I'm bringing these things into conversation, that while the xenophobia and the anti-immigrant sentiment might be something that works against me, I also have a rich cultural heritage. I have a lot of traditions. I have a close family. I have many, or I may have these things. Like these become part of again, some of these strength conversations as well. And so being able to sort of work people's narratives in that intersectional way, I think is really beautiful. And so one project that I heard about, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about, is called Project Them. Can you share a little bit about this initiative? Because this sounds really fascinating.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about Project Them. I love it. This is our pilot program that we are just launching. And Project Them stands for Transhumanistic Empowerment Movement. And it's an homage to the they, them pronoun. And it's a 4-part program that we're launching in the greater Greensboro area. And it consists of support groups, case management, outreach to the community, and one-on-one therapy for somebody who might need it if we find people within that context who need a little bit more support. The thing I'm most excited about, and we're going to really start on, is the support groups. And Ivy touched on this as well, that finding that tribe, especially for trans teens, that's going to be the big one that we're really trying to get started up and running first. So the trans teens group is the first one we want to get going. And it's empowering. That's part of that humanistic empowerment piece, is not only to have people have a place where they can come and talk about their experience and what's going on, but also to create an environment where people who are in the trans community are creating a tribe for others, so that empowerment of being able to create a space for other people, and that empowerment of the give and take of a support group, I think is really an amazing, beautiful piece. We're also going to be launching a completely separate, and I want to make this very, very clear, these two groups will not know who is, they're private groups and the memberships are completely private. We're going to be offering a support group for parents who maybe want to support their trans teen, but they don't know what that looks like, and kind of helping parents through that process so that they can be more supportive for their teens. So we have our interns working on this as well. We have master's level interns from both of the colleges. And then once we get this pilot program up and running, we're hoping that next semester we'll have another support group that we're going to be running in Spanish. So that we're going to have several different support groups for different varieties of populations within the trans community. And then we're going to be having the undergrads working with case management. We're going to be offering lots of different things going on within Project Them. I got to put a plug in. We are desperate for funds because we are a small nonprofit. So they are going to be, Matthew said that he would be putting up a little blurb at the end of this so that I can hook everybody into my GoFundMe campaign. We're diligently writing grants all over the place, trying to get laptops, because of course we have to run all of these groups virtually. We can't have that many people coming into the office. We are seeing people in our office, and we are set up for people to come in one at a time if they would prefer one-on-one therapy. My couch is 6 feet away from my chair, and we can have people. We've got a big enough space for that. We don't have a big enough space for group therapy, so we're going to have to do it virtually. So we're doing grants. We're reaching out to the community. We've got a GoFundMe going on so that we can get more technology, more broadband, more laptops, so that we can have more people online and supporting that group support in a virtual manner.
That's awesome. That's really exciting. Yeah, so we'll definitely put those links up. By the way, our person who's here who does TICA, which is a program out of THC, Lucero said to say hello, and she wants to connect into this program that's happening with them. So that's exciting to this is what this is all about, connecting people.
Yes.
Because she's actually on her way to Raleigh right now, which is where TICA is really kind of blossoming and headed and looking right now. So she couldn't watch the show live, but she'll check in with it later. I think that there will be definitely people in the community who will look at wanting to support this and adding into that GoFundMe. So
and that includes transgender and then also non-binary, non-gender conforming, like the full gender and identity expression section.
Yeah, yeah, and transgender is such a blanket term, and we're using it as a blanket term. Just so it's more of an inclusive blanket term that we want people to non-conforming, however they want to identify, even if they're questioning, even if they're, especially in the teens group, even if they're just kind of wondering, I don't know what this looks like. Something is feeling a little off for me and I want to know, is this where I'm going? And they're more than welcome to come in and be part of our group and see what that looks like for them. Especially and you mentioned earlier, Adriana, about the numbers of teens and the suicidal ideation and the suicidal attempts when they're not feeling supported. So we really want people to feel supported, and this is part of the Project Them impetus, that we want people to feel supported and have some place where they can come, where we can say, you can talk about this, we can have these discussions, you can feel supported here. And so they're not isolated, so they don't feel alone. And that's a whole part of the outreach. And so, try to cut down on those numbers, that, you don't have to be alone, isolated and by yourself. You come on over here and talk to us. And the support groups are completely free. That's another reason that we are doing the GoFundMe, because we don't want to charge anybody for the support groups.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Thank you for sharing that.
And I love that you're having one for parents, because I think that's really important to have a space where it's not even that you have to be completely on board with this. It's a question. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I have questions to ask, and to have that space to say, I'm on board, that I need to know, and I need to have space to ask questions, and to have a space for that is so important. That's what we've heard from the community. And so it's even part of what we're trying to build with partners in High Point with Safe Zone, that we're trying to build that partnership with our High Point space, because we know that there are people there who are saying, I have questions and I'm not exactly sure how to support my child in this. And it's okay to ask those questions, where is there a space for that? So I love that that's a part of this. With the Suicide Awareness Week, and to honor part of that, and to honor our Stop Stigma campaign and the talk about mental health, we'd love to hear from you as a therapist. What's something that the community can do to support mental health of LGBTQ+ individuals, aside from going to the GoFundMe page and supporting monetarily? What else is something that you see as maybe a piece that's missing that community can come behind and support?
Well, and I had an answer for this, but my boss told me it wasn't nice. Because I kind of get very frustrated with people who aren't kind to others. So I will put this in a way that's more kind. So if we could just, embrace that human piece, and loving people just because they're human beings, and loving people unconditionally. And as a community, as a world, as a population, and just as human beings, saying, hey, I'm going to love somebody. I don't need to understand them. I don't need to have them explain anything to me. I don't have to have them fit into any sort of a category. I can just love people based on the fact that they're just people, and I just love them. And if we could get more people in the community, in the world, to just take a minute and think about what I would want for myself. I know it sounds silly, but it's the golden rule. I want to be accepted and loved for who I am, no matter what it is. And so can we just take a minute to accept other people and love them for whatever that looks like, however that presents to us, or how that presents to themselves. And I think that's a really radical notion, that we're going to say, hey, well, let's just love everybody. And I think that the community right now is doing a great job as far as reaching out. I think there needs to be more outreach, but I think that the people who are involved in outreach are really doing it loudly, and they're really standing up and shouting that we're here. And I know that that's one of the things that I wanted to do, was to really kind of wave my arms and jump around and say, hey, Sunrise-Amanecer is here. Check us out. come, come see us, see what we're about. And we have an opportunity for people to come and see us and work with us, and you don't have to do it alone. And that's the biggest thing, is to let people know that they're not alone.
Well, we're certainly glad that you waved your arm and we were able to partner up. We're certainly glad that you came on the show today and shared with us. And I think there's great possibilities, especially with this project, of connecting people. And I'm excited to see what happens in the future. That's the whole point of us doing this, to look at these intersections and see how we can go forward. And thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot. Even, any words that can continue to reinforce how people bring their authentic selves into community and then be welcomed and accepted and affirmed in that. And I think that again, I appreciate the work that Sunrise-Amanecer is doing. I appreciate the opportunity of really learning more about it today. So we look forward to, hopefully we'll get to see you back on our lunch.
I would love to come back. I won't sing reggae, but I would love to come back at any time. And I really appreciate you having me on. I'm glad I got to plug Project Them. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, we actually have a show that we've been kind of thinking about. We have a connection with someone from Adam and Eve who said that they would love to come on. And then we're thinking about with your kink positive, as a kink positive therapist, that maybe we could do a lunch for friends after dark and do a different
Nice.
some different content with a warning label on it, maybe.
Well, we talk about stigma, and again, in the future we would love to continue that conversation with you and certainly talk about stigma. It certainly influences community members who have BDSM and think it's part of their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be worth conversation. So yes, lunch after dark.
Supper, dinner, whatever you call it, whatever. But we're excited to have you back sometime, Sheilagh, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much.
And we wish you the best, and we hope people come and donate to the GoFundMe.
We'll include the link. So Matthew,
He's
we'll
on it.
include his link. He's
Awesome.
organized like that.